on, golf fans? It's your boy GS Luke here with our DFS core picks for this week's Travelers Championship. Last week at the US Open was a pretty solid one for us here on the channel. Really was just a Matt Fitzpatrick away from taking down all the contest. I was fading that chalk. That narrative just seemed too good to be true, to be quite honest with you. I think a lot of people really bought into that narrative, and if you did, hey, it paid off last week. But we did have quite a few hits, like a low-owned Scotty Scheffler, Colin Morikawa. All 6 of our core picks did make it through the cut. So in terms of ROI, can never complain about a profitable week, but from the outright perspective, had Jon Rahm, Scotty Scheffler outrights, Colin Morikawa outright that came a little bit close there, just close, but no cigar for the big bucks last week. In general, though, really looking forward to this week's golf tournament and going over my top 6 plays, the foundational picks that I'll be building my lineups around for the Travelers Championship. All of these core picks going to be owned in about 25, maybe even 35% of my lineups, and are going to be the quote-unquote core pieces of my player pool for this week. All of them will be $8,000 and above, the spend up options that I have the most confidence in this week, and pretty much regardless of ownership, are going to be a key piece of my player pool. So with that being said, a lot to talk about. Let's go ahead and hop right on in. Alrighty, we've got our projections on the board and going to start off with our pick up top, which is going to be Rory McIlroy at $11,000. Last week he was a fade for us, which ended up paying off, right? Scotty Scheffler had a higher score than him. Also, even guys like a Colin Morikawa at a cheaper price were better in terms of points per dollar, but frankly, I can't avoid him this time around. He looked solid at a golf course that I didn't think fit his game, and for the last 3 or 4 weeks, that has been the same case. So he's really building so much momentum at this point where I think he's almost unavoidable in every shots gained category, getting the job done. And if we take a look at the last 24 rounds, it's emphatically in every category. The only category where he's not gaining over half a stroke per round is going to be with the flat stick. And if there's one thing that Rory McIlroy can get working in a hurry, it is that flat stick. I mean, through the first 2 days last week at the US Open, had gained over 6 strokes to the field with the flat stick. And though that did cool off over the weekend, he has shown that pop ability in the past. And at a golf course where he maybe doesn't have the stereotypical skill set to go out here and actually take this thing home, I think he's going to be a little bit slept on this week. So if we take a look at the course history, you'll see it's not ideal for Rory. He's only played here 3 times, but had an 11th in 2020, a 12th in 2018, a 17th in 2017. So at the very least, has been able to make cuts and crack the top 20 every single time. You have guys with more elite history. I mean, going down to Cantley, who we'll talk about here in a second, you can see a little bit more consistent, has played here the last 4 years, but just because Rory didn't play here last year, only has 3 starts in his last 5 years, if that's going to make people a little bit hesitant to get to him, then I'm going to be all over him, right? He's number 1 in recent form ranking, number 1 in TPC River Highlands fit, and loves himself the bent POA hybrid surface. So in general, really nothing to hold back against him. I mean, the recent form speaks for itself. 5th place, won the RBC Canadian. A top 20 at the Memorial was his floor at this point, and top 10 finishes at the PGA and Wells Fargo just speak for themselves. And when looking at some of the comp courses, one of my main comps this week is TPC Potomac at Avenel Farm, the home of the Wells Fargo Championship. So just coming in with the momentum we're looking for, really the only concern I have here is that he'll be playing for what is the 4th straight week. So played at the Memorial, Canadian, obviously the US Open. Perhaps some of the pressure from the Live Tour is why he's actually teeing it up as much as he is. But in either circumstance, the shots gained metrics look great. He's played well at comp courses. He's number 1 in my modeling this week, really. I just can't find a reason to fade him here. So he's going to be a significant portion of my player pool this week, probably closer to that 35, maybe even 40% mark when it comes to my exposure. And next up, we got Patrick Cantley, and is somebody who actually didn't make it into my final player pool last week. He was a core pick, but late news came out that he was dealing with some personal issues, had not practiced at all during the week, had taken a few shots on the range, but hadn't gone out there for a true practice round. And because we were at Brookline, a brand new venue that none of these players had seen before, that was a huge red flag for me. And through the first 2 days, that bared out. He did not look very solid. The fact that he even was able to make the cut was surprising, but over the weekend ended up playing some solid golf, nothing real crazy, working himself into a top 15 finish. So the recent form has been up and down for Cantley, but you've certainly seen the upside, right? 14th place finish last week, pretty decent at a major, right? You're not going to hold that against him, but top 3 at the Memorial, Missed cut at the PGA, showing that volatility off, but a first place finish at the Zurich and a second place finish at the Heritage. The one real common denominator here is that on shorter golf courses like we had at the RBC Heritage and that we've seen over the years, he's had a ton of success. Think about this golf course where he's been so consistent over the years. Think of Riviera, another extremely short golf course, and even Pebble Beach, a place where he's had multiple top 15 finishes. And though he doesn't have a win on his record on these super short golf courses, he does have a lot of solid finishes, and in DFS, we don't necessarily need him to win to go out there and crack the optimal lineup. Anything in that top 3 to 5 is going to get the job done. And from a shots gained perspective, he's starting to get back to the Cantley that we love. He's not completely back there yet, but the ball striking is in order, gaining about a third of a stroke in both categories. The putter's the real one thing lagging behind. But the lovely part about last week at the Open is he gained over 6 strokes with the putter. So clearly things are starting to turn around for Cantley. And if he can continue that momentum with the flat stick, also try and get back to that ball striking form that we saw before the US Open, I think that he could have a really solid week here. So last week ended up feeding himself out of our player pool, but somebody I'm willing to buy back in on because the putting form was there last week. The ball striking form has been there for quite some time and coming in with some solid momentum. Next up, another player who made it out of our player pool last week, but we're going right back to him, is Jordan Spieth. The main concern we had there was the stomach bug. A day and a half before the event started, came out that he was not able to use his practice round, was not even able to practice at all on Wednesday, and as a result, that was a huge red flag for me. And again, just like Cantley, you saw that through the first 2 days. He was really struggling, and even by the end of the week, really hadn't put together his best stuff. But I'll remind you, the last time this happened was right before Pebble Beach. He went out there, was sick, ended up actually missing the cut the week before, so even worse than what happened at the US Open. What does he do the next week? Goes out there to Pebble Beach and finishes in second, right? So ceiling performance right after that trash performance. And this is a similar golf course. It's a positional golf course, all about hitting irons and making some putts. And Jordan Spieth, with his newfound accuracy off the tee, is an extremely intriguing option. I mean, just narrative aside, right? This is a great course fit for him. He's actually won the Travelers Championship before. So if we take a look at the course history, it is a little bit volatile. A few missed cuts in there, a few not so good performances in 2020 and 2018, but it's important to remember that's when Jordan Spieth was really struggling, right? That's the season where his swing completely fell apart, particularly with that driving accuracy. And the one thing we know about this golf course is your off the tee play better be in check to have some success. So it's not really a surprise to see him without that success during that stretch. So with his new identity, which is a much stronger off the tee play, I expect him to have a solid week here. You can see gaining close to 3/4 of a stroke per round off the tee. Approach play is always going to be a strong suit for Jordan. Same thing with around the green. Just has to be able to bring that flat stick to the table. And the real positive thing about his game the last 3 to 4 weeks is we've started to see that progression with the flat stick. He was losing closer to half a stroke per round with his putter over the last, I believe, 50 measured rounds the last time we checked. Now, what is he over his last 50? I'd assume probably closer to a third of a stroke lost per round. Yeah, exactly, right around 0.34. So slowly but surely is starting to turn the tide in the positive direction there. And kind of similar to a Cantley, hopefully he can continue that momentum going forward because the ball striking form has been there in bunches. So he's a top 10 model ranking, not like Rory McIlroy where he's number 1, really sticks out from that department, but just obviously starting to get over that stomach ache. Hopefully he's a little bit lower owned this week because of his performance last week. And people forget that that was due to the stomach issues, right? Him, Justin Thomas were dealing with a few issues last week and not really surprised to see them struggle at all at the US Open. Alrighty, next up we've got Tommy Fleetwood at $9,200, and last week was somebody who completely burned me, but burned a lot of the industry. Was chalk last week, a great course fit. The price tag made a lot of sense, and anytime one of those chalky plays ends up missing the cut, they're going to be royally underowned the next week. People have that emotional response to their plays, and in reality, if you want to be a pro-level DFS player, you got to be able to put those emotions aside. Just take a look at the raw facts and evaluate whether somebody makes sense from a points perspective. So if we take a look at the shots gained metrics, you'll see why he's an attractive play, gaining across the board. And if you saw my course breakdown video, you know this isn't really a course where you can get away with being good at one thing. You can't overpower this with your approach play. You can't gain 10 strokes putting here and take out the field. You're going to have to gain across the board. So given that he's done that this year, that obviously is a huge feather in his cap. And even over the last 50 measured rounds, that actually even gets better. He's a little bit more of a significant gainer off the tee. The putting still remains over half a stroke per round. In general, he's starting to look like the Tommy Fleetwood of old. In 2021, I really had my worries about his game, but whatever he's changed here in this season has really started to make an impact. With his recent form, outside of the missed cut last time out, has been pretty damn solid. Made the cut at the Charles Schwab, top 5 at the PGA, another made cut at the Byron Nelson, and a top 10 at the Heritage. So in general, a lot of results that we'd put a lot of stock behind, and that missed cut at the Zurich Classic, so be it. That was a team event, right? I'm not going to hold that against him all too much. The course history isn't really substantial. He's only played here one time, and that was in 2019, where he finished in 13th place. I expect him to just be overlooked, right? He missed the cut last week. He doesn't have a ton of course history to go off of. The recent form with the missed cut last week, right? Not all that attractive, but from a skill set perspective, if we could just put that performance last week aside, he's checking every box we're looking for. So the price tag makes enough sense for me, right? It's not too expensive where I have to avoid it. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity cost involved. Given that he's shown the top 5 upside at the PGA, top 10 upside at the RBC Heritage, duplicate that type of performance could crack the optimal lineup. So I like him there at $9,200, both for a skill set perspective and as a potential source of low owned leverage. Next up, we're going to go to Davis Riley, who's been in unbelievable form of late. I mean, this kid has to be, either number 1 or number 2 when it comes to rookie of the year this year. You have somebody like a Cameron Young, who's obviously had 3 second place finishes at this point, but Davis Riley has been Mr. Consistency. So if we take a look at the recent form, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. The guy has not missed a cut since the RBC Heritage, and that includes 4 top 10 finishes. A 4th place at the Zurich, which whatever, right, team event. Not going to put too much into that, but 5th place at the Mexico, pretty sweet. Top 10 at the Byron Nelson, pretty damn sweet. And a top 5 at the Charles Schwab Challenge. Outside of that, he's made the cut at both major championships, top 15 at the Memorial. Just what can't this kid do, right? At the Byron Nelson, was able to finish in the top 10. That was a birdie fest. At the Memorial, an absolutely difficult track, finished in the top 15. And at the Mexico Open, which is by all means just an off the tee course, right? Go out there, smash the golf ball and take the place low. He still finished in the top 5. This kid can literally do it all, and the shots gain metrics bear that out as well. He's gaining across all 4 categories, so kind of similar to a Tommy Fleetwood. That is exactly what we're looking for, but getting it done most significantly in the 2 categories I care about the most, which is always going to be approach play. That is the king of all stats when it comes to the PGA Tour, but also with the flat stick, somebody who can get it really working hot in a hurry, and over his last 2 to 3 events has not gained with the putter all that much. He had gained 9 strokes at the Mexico Open, which was a big reason why he went out there and had that success, but ever since then it's been the approach play, gaining over 4 strokes per event with his approach play over his last 3 events. He is certainly trending in the right direction, and if he can just go out there, find that spike putter this week, I mean, this could be his first ever win on tour. This is the perfect type of venue for a Davis Riley's game. Obviously, no course history because this is his first ever start at this event, but I'm not going to hold that against me. The last time we had a first-time winner at this event, Jordan Spieth, a damn good rookie at that point, somebody who had the pedigree, kind of like a Davis Riley at this point, and it would not surprise me at all to see history repeat itself here. So I love myself some Davis Riley this week, even over the last 50 measured rounds, so give him a true sample size. Still gaining across the board and damn close to 0.2 shots per round in every category too. So absolutely love this kid going forward. I think he's by far the class of this rookie class, and from a sustainability standpoint, I think his game is a lot more sustainable than Cam Young. Cam Young has got that bomber mentality. Put him on a golf course where you got to be good off the tee, Cam Young is going to shine, but put Davis Riley on pretty much any type of golf course, and I think you see a similar type of performance. And now lastly, our last core pick here is going to be Brian Harman at $8,600. Brian Harman loves this golf course. That is readily apparent with his course history here, where he's had elite finishes pretty much every time. Top 10 finish last year, top 5 actually last year, top 10 finish in 2019, and top 10 finish there in 2018. The one lone miscut in 2020 isn't really all that surprising to me because he's a volatile player. When he has it working with the iron play, there is no better approach player on tour, particularly at those wedge ranges. He's somebody who kind of deals with distance issues, right? Maybe not the longest player on the tour, but in terms of his recent form metrics, again, right? It's just the thing that keeps on giving back. gaining across the board. Somebody who's extremely consistent, is always going to be one of the better short game players that we have, regardless of the golf course. But off the tee, like I said, more of an accuracy guy. And around this venue, you can get away with that. Over his last 50 rounds, it gets a little bit worse, but it's not all that much. Still gaining across all 4 categories. The recent form has been pretty decent as well. So if we take a look at that, where is he at here? He has a made cut last time out. Okay. Top 20 at the Memorial. Pretty sweet. 1 missed cut. Okay, we can deal with that, but made the cut at the PGA, top 10 at the Wells Fargo, another made cut at the Heritage. He's starting to look like the Brian Harman that was present in the early part of 2021, where he had made something like 16 straight cuts. Ever since then, had gone in a little bit of a lull, but if he's starting to look like the Brian Harman of old, the one that was able to compete at Aaron Hills at a major championship, that has finished in the top 5 multiple times at these short golf courses, then I'm going to be a buyer there. So Brian Harman, I expect him to be a little bit popular this week. I don't think I'll be the only one playing Brian Harman here, but given his track record around TPC River Highlands, the recent form coming in, the top 10 finish at the Wells Fargo Championship, a lot of things pointing towards them having a solid week. Guys, that's all I've got for the core picks this week. Before you hop on out of here, let me know down in the comments who you've got winning. For me, I'm not going to take Rory. I'm not going to take that super chalky pick up top. I'm going to go with Jordan Spieth, right? Somebody who might not be a no-brainer to win this week, but given the recent form, I know the last time he had that stomach bug, came out, had his flu game at the Pebble Beach. Maybe this time it ends up being a win, but either way, guys, I would love to hear your predictions down below. And as per usual, we'll have you covered for the entire week's worth of content. We'll have value picks dropping sometime tomorrow morning, a regular DFS live stream that'll be Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of that content when it drops in the future. Also, if you haven't already smashed that like button, first off, what are you waiting for? Make sure you go ahead and do that before you hop on out of here. But best of luck with all of your lineups for this week, any outrights that you place, showdown, prize picks content that you guys are going with, and let's get this cash.